Alice.
Oh, hi.
How's it going? I was just showing Joe my hammer. Joe's in a band called Eye on the Sky. They have an album coming out called Moon War 2020.
We do.
Imminently coming out as soon as possible.
Soon a possible.
Do you think it'll be released by 2020?
Well, we're working on that time machine thing with that H.G. Wells fella, but we're running a little behind, so might not be.
That joke's gonna not translate well for people watching this episode in like 2025 and just don't know when this was
I hope
released.
so.
Yeah.
We battled a lot about whether or not we kept that name. It was like, it's going to be, it's now 2022. So that doesn't have the same ring to it. Delayed 2023. That sounds futury, but not quite right. In the end, we just kind of decided to stick to 2020 because really what the album ended up being was almost more of an escapist idea of what 2020 should have been, even though it ends with, the destruction of all things.
Yeah.
The end of the world. But at least, it was, instead of the slow, shitty descent we've got now, at least we got some fireworks.
Hell yeah.
In the album version. So
that may be preferable.
I thought so.
To reality.
Yeah, because reality ended up kind of stealing our thunder a little bit writing this thing. So we started out writing this about like 2019, slowly kind of putting the pieces together. Then 2020 happened, and man, every single time we wrote something, we thought, well, this is ridiculous, we'll throw it in here. Real life kept stealing it. I'm not even joking. You might remember the Nashville bombing on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
You remember when they put out that guy's manifesto?
No.
Oh, well, he had this whole rant about moon people and all that stuff, specifically moon lizards.
Okay. And, I didn't know anything about that. I thought it was like
a
corporate thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Go on, please.
Yeah, well, it just seems like we ended up coming up with this idea of an alternate futuristic version of 2020 where a well-known conspiracy talk show host, a tinfoil hat type, gets on and goes on rants, angry rants, and happens to accidentally stumble on an actual like globalist conspiracy about how the reptilians
chemicals in the
based on that guy exactly. Because we wanted to mock him a little bit.
Yeah, he's my favorite. He's also my favorite to make fun of.
Oh God, that dude is just, it's so wonderful.
He's
what's happening
done some really not good things.
Yeah, but
he's
beautiful what's happening to him right now.
Yeah.
But so we had this idea. We got this fraud, this talk show fraud, and he, in one of his episodes, spouts this theory about how the moon landing was real, but it wasn't astronauts that came back. About how Roswell and like alien abductions are all like crisis actors. It was all a smokescreen for the real alien threat, which was the reptilians from the moon who had been slowly infiltrating society and had taken over the government. And this future version of 2020 had a sort of a globalist world united government. Mm-hmm. So this guy stumbles on this in one of his shows, leaving his recording studio that night. He gets assaulted by a man with his own face. They have a scuffle. He beats him. The man's face gets ripped off and reveals itself to be a reptilian, disguises him to, take his place. So now he's got this literally damning body of evidence, and the actual reptilian government is now after him. He flees to his house. They pursue him.
The body?
Yeah, he's got the body with him because this is going to be his real evidence.
Finally, you gotta have that. You're dead if you don't have that.
Yeah, dude, it's going to be his like big moment to shine. Like, I'm not full of shit.
Yeah.
I was right. I know what I saw.
Yeah,
all that stuff. Well, of course, they send out the black helicopters and shit and drones chase him, and he escapes narrowly. And when the world leader is getting ready to have a summit, somehow this fella scurries up on stage and rips his face off in front of the whole world to see. Reptilian conspiracy unveiled. The world leader is a lizard man. Open oppression, jackboot assholes and bootlickers everywhere, and shit goes south real fast. Of course, then there's a human resistance. rise up and chase the moon lizards off of Earth. There's a big space battle. We chase them out into space, kick their asses.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. We're riding high. So we decided, let's go to the moon, wipe them the fuck out.
Yeah, fuck
Right?
yeah, let's go.
Yeah, let's go.
Fucking go.
Let's go. We beat them on Earth. We beat them in space. Let's go to the moon. Total slaughter.
Hell yeah. Dude.
Yeah, they just wipe us out.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
One guy, his spacesuit bleeding atmosphere, and he crawls out of the craters and sneaks into the moon base, where he meets none other than Neil Armstrong himself, kept prisoner these 57 years. 51 years.
Because he was replaced by a reptile.
Exactly. And all this is like very little details in the lyrics and shit. And so the lone survivor and Neil Armstrong team up. Neil Armstrong's heard some shit while he's been prisoner. There's a secret weapon in the core of the moon. Let's turn it against them.
It's the fucking Death Star.
They don't know what it does,
oh.
But they know that they want to get revenge. So they throw the switch. The moon explodes.
With them on it.
With them on it. Pyrrhic victory. The reptilians die. But now Earth is doomed. We pan back to Earth. The tinfoil hat man crawls out of the rubble, basks for a moment in his glory, like, I overthrew the reptilian government. Realizes that the moon is falling. Everyone's going to die. He's got one thing he can do to redeem himself, and that's find the reptilian leader who didn't flee with everyone else. Went into a little hidey ho, kind of like a certain someone did during a certain actual insurrection that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll get into that in a second. But please so do. He chases that fella down, beats him, and gets a moment of, I finally did something meaningful with my life, as the moon crashes into the Earth and everyone dies. A millennia later, we return to Earth, and it's just a blasted wasteland. Just a few small stone fragments as memory of man and reptilian. All in all, I feel like that's a much better 2020.
Yeah.
The one that we had.
Yeah, I agree.
Because, like the tune that you've heard, Magnum Reptilian. That's the human uprising. You're like going to kick the reptilians, beat them out of the Capitol building and all that stuff. That was written right around the time that the George Floyd protests were happening. And I was really feeling that momentum. I really wanted that to carry on and actually see some sustainable change. Of course, kind of didn't, unfortunately. But I still carried that energy into that song and wanted it to be sort of symbolic for what if we had actually done this? Of course, then reality has to come and scoop me. And then a much uglier, a much stupider insurrection happens. Yeah. And that kind of soured the note a little bit. But that's just the story of this album, writing it. Every time we come up with a silly idea, real life seems to come in and find a way to, I guess, steal our thunder a little bit.
That's a very powerful magic you have, that you're able to shape the future through your jokes unintentionally.
I keep joking how, wouldn't it be funny if we cured cancer or something? When it just never happens.
It probably got cured and then it just got locked away.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Yeah. Probably some moon lizard right now.
Joke about it getting the cure for cancer getting released.
It'd be a really funny thing.
What?
Whoa! The cure for cancer.
That would be so fucking funny. That's a good joke.
Oh Lord.
Well, glad you're here, man.
Hey, thanks for having me. Thanks for enduring the tinfoil hatted rant.
No. It was a good rant. I feel like it was very insightful.
Thank you.
I also love it. I love that you stuck with the 2020.
I thought so too. It was kind of like we're taking it back.
Even if it's coming out imminently, but even if it came out 5 years from now, keep it 2020. Obviously.
Oh yeah, no, we joked about that too. If for some reason we keep getting delayed or something like that, it's 2020, because I feel like that would be at least everyone kept doing the 2020 was a terrible year for everyone for a lot of reasons, but it was pretty fertile ground for artistic types because
Oh, true.
stuck, if you were able to be stuck at home,
Mm.
you had a lot of time to work on your passion.
Yeah.
And we did manage to make something that we're very proud of that we might not have been able to had life continued as it normally was. So
And since then, um, do you is the momentum kept going, or is it like?
it's been leaps and bounds, sometimes trickles and spurts,
Yeah,
because life
makes
still
sense.
happens.
Yeah,
As I mentioned before, there's life gets in the way sometimes. We've had children born, everyone's kind of
yeah.
relocated. I changed jobs. Our bass player briefly caught on fire.
Can I hear about that?
Without making him feel too bad. Hi, Heath.
Hi, Heath.
He was cleaning some brush for a family friend, and fire kind of got out of hand and
Oh no.
ended up burning a pretty good chunk of his forearm.
Oh, I thought it was gonna be like he let it. The way you presented it, I thought it was gonna be like not a bad story.
Oh
Sorry.
no, no, yeah. Well, I mean, he did catch on fire, um, but he persevered.
I was kind of thinking his pants.
No, 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 no. I do know someone whose pants have caught on fire, but that was on a drunken dare.
Well, sorry about your arm, Heath. That sucks.
He's better. He's better.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah, that was back in 2020, I believe. So
Okay.
yeah, but we've just trying to keep it trucking along. Kind of one of these old guard now. It's weird to think of ourselves like that. The scene has changed so much post pandemic. Like bands that we used to admire and look up to don't exist anymore. Venues we used to really get excited about playing don't exist anymore. But it is cool to see all these new groups popping up and a few new venues here and
Yeah.
there. Really excited to get back out there and
Yeah.
meet the new folks and rub elbows with the olds and see if we can still, shake some buildings.
Where are you from?
I'm originally from Lawrence County. It's a little bit further south.
Um, I'd probably know town better,
Um, well, let's
or
see,
just something close to it.
close to it. This would be further south past Columbia,
Oh, okay.
kind of 15 minutes off of the Alabama state line.
Okay, gotcha. I grew up in Lincoln County,
Oh, right
Fayetteville,
on.
Tennessee.
Fayetteville. I've got a story about Fayetteville.
Oh, please.
So this was I think 2002. So post 9/11 world. At the time, I had a summer job working for the Department of Forestry, doing a insect trapping program. I'm a bug nerd. Hi.
That's neat. We should talk about that too.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And this trapping program, you have these little cardboard triangle traps, glue pheromone stick in it, trying to attract these tussock moths. They're real destructive. And you were given a couple of counties. Each county was broken down to like a 1x4 grid. So
destructive to crops.
Two hardwood trees.
Oh shit.
The caterpillars are super voracious. And like if left untreated, like because each moth can lay a clutch of like 200 eggs, and if left untreated, 2 seasons of caterpillars eating the leaves kill the trees. So they're really destructive.
Holy shit.
I'm not certain what the moth's current common name is. It was gypsy moth, but very recently, within the last couple months, the name was changed because that's an insensitive term, gypsy. But I can't remember off the top of my head what the current term for it is. Anyways, I was in Fayetteville, and part of the grid that I had to put a trap at was next to the Frito-Lay's potato chip factory.
I know the
Now,
one.
there's no trees over there, and so let me set the scene. I have a shitty summer tan from helping out with the farm, farm boy. I've got not this glorious thing, but just a big, stupid, ragged neck beard. First beards always look terrible.
Yeah. I'm still in that phase.
Yeah, and I was blasting some very loud music, and so I had put my trap up on the power pole next to the potato chip factory, had keyed in my coordinates on this ancient brick of a GPS unit they gave us, and was filling out the paperwork when a couple of police cars come screaming into the parking lot, boxing in on the other side. They hop out, they've got their hands on their holsters. I'm like, what's going on here? You know, they approach, I'm in the process of saying what seems to be, and there's do not speak. Get out of the vehicle, turn off your engine, put your hands where you can see them, get out of the vehicle, all that stuff. All right. I'm, young, I'm nervous. I don't know what the hell's going on. I don't want to get shot by a cop.
I mean, these are Fayetteville cops.
Yeah. And so they give me the rigmarole, like, what am I doing there? What's that thing you put on the power line? All this stuff. And I'm showing, I've got big decals on my car door that says Division of Forestry, Ag Department. I've got a lanyard that says, Forestry 8-1. I've got a whole card full of these little paper traps. And after about 20 minutes of them giving me the business, one goes, okay, sir, we believe you who you say you are. It's just, we received a call from an anonymous tipster that a suspicious man was putting suspicious devices on power lines while listening to militant Islamic music. Now you have a good day. And they left. I guess they figured they didn't want to, me sue them or something like that. But I was too stupid. I was scared. I know what was going on. It was baffled. It's like militant Islamic music. It's like, okay, I guess I kind of get it. Like, had a bit darker tan. I was listening to Behemoth, a Polish death metal band, which I don't know where they got that.
I think what happened is Satanic Panic just turned into Islam Panic. So
it did.
Yeah.
There's always a permutation of some sort of scapegoatism.
Yeah. So they're just they can't call it that Satan music. So there's because that's not the thing anymore.
That's true.
Well, I guess it is the thing, but it's also Islam's, I guess, a bigger thing.
It was for like that period. It seems like we've circled back around to Satanic Panic. I've got some friends that are playing in a show, I think somewhere in Kentucky. That is like, I think it's the Metal Devastation Fest or something like that. And the townsfolk have gotten all Jesus-y about it. And like, why is it called Devastation? That makes me think you're going to do something bad. And they really riled up like the Satanic Panic stuff again.
Hell yeah.
Which I think is kind of hilarious.
That is hilarious. But I thought we were kind of past that.
I thought so too, but I think we as a just civilization, there's always a niche for a scapegoat class, and it rotates. In medieval days on into modern day, unfortunately, that has oftentimes been like the Jewish people have been scapegoated, and then it's minorities, and then it's Satan or whatever. Society has this ugly need, I think, to always find someone to be the other, the adversary.
Yeah.
And especially in times of like strife and struggle.
It's tribalism gone wrong.
It is.
What happens is you have to the tribe's so big you have to look for opponents. Seek them out.
Yeah.
Instead of them coming to you. Because I feel like there's probably like a natural instinct for well, I don't want to say conflict, because that's not innate in most people.
Right.
But like tribalism seems to be like deeply ingrained in people. And it's not always a bad thing, but it can always,
but it tends to get out of hand quickly, I think. Especially in times of like struggle and strife, like just like where the collective is like struggling with something, maybe there's a larger systemic issue at hand. People are more apt to look for a class of people to blame it on rather than like address the systemic thing.
Yeah.
We see that history is what was that phrase? History doesn't repeat, but it does rhyme. And
that was my roommate.
Are they okay?
He's playing Apex.
I thought we were
fucking asshole clipped my audio. Fuck you, David.
I don't know. I feel like that's a good segue into spooky stuff almost. I was gonna say, house is haunted.
I forgot to tell you I had a roommate here.
Nice. No, it's all good, dude. No, I'll quickly round about my thought on scapegoatism, though.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like every large era of civilization seems to be punctuated with these sort of like mass finger pointings.
Hmm.
Whether like you go to ancient Roman times, like Rome itself was horribly corrupt and falling apart from the inside infrastructurally.
Yeah.
Who better to blame than the Christians? And then
Yeah.
Christianity rises to power, and when things go awry, they got to have someone else to blame, so then it becomes the Jews, and then on and on and on and on. I mean,
There's always got to be some kind of rival.
yeah, and
Here-
it's always masking something else, I
I
think.
think so. I'm a fellow tinfoil hat as well.
I doff my cap. Oh no, they can read my thoughts.
Oh no, keep it on, keep it on. I appreciate the gesture. Yeah, keep it on. Protect yourself.
Yes,
I have a tinfoil hat under here. You just can't see it.
he's much more stylish than I am.
Agree to disagree. What was I gonna say? Oh no, like I'm at this point, I'm completely convinced, and I'm open to suggestions.
All right.
Open to having my mind changed. But the way I see the world is these conflicts. I don't see them as very organic at all. They're completely put in place a lot of the time. I think what happens is the governments will turn us against each other on any metric, whether it's race, whether it is gender. And these issues exist in society, but they're amplified and they create the divisions and they make it worse and make it as bad as they can to make it a distraction, because the only real we should all be on the same team, and the only real battle that should be taking place is the people against the government.
Oh, absolutely. Government, or just the powers that be.
The powers that be.
Yeah.
Whether it's the Catholic Church,
Yeah.
and whether it's the U.S. government.
Yeah. Because those that have the power want to, maintain the status quo, and we're seeing a lot of that now too. I saw someone elected to office based on the whole, like, well, I'm just not the other guy, which was a destructive force.
Mhm.
And then instead of actually doing anything, they basically just said, well, I'm just going to maintain, what I've got, like, so I can keep in power. So, nothing changes. Nothing's ever
Yeah.
going to come from the top that's going to change anything.
To me, man, I only see one way to fix this. And I'm not gonna expose my most radical views to Alice here.
I think
But
I know.
to say it in a tame way,
Yeah.
they are never gonna hold themselves accountable.
No, of course not.
We have to hold the people that work for us, the servants of the people, work for us and not for themselves.
Yeah, but they don't recognize that anymore, and we
Because we let them.
we do let them.
And we only because we let them.
Yeah.
At any time we could change it.
It's true, but it's going to take, I think, more and more a large force to drive us to collectively say enough of this shit. And I think part of that is by their design. I mean, look at the education system. It's pretty bad.
Mhm.
Oh
yeah,
I was
bad.
hooked on phonics for a while there, despite the fact that like the English language is three raccoons in a trench coat. It's a hodgepodge, and those rules don't apply to everything. So trying to learn to
it's beautiful for the same
phonetically.
reasons it's awful.
Yeah.
Like French. French is completely what the fuck is that? But it's also beautiful for the same reason. It's so eloquent, but also it's so French.
It is. All those languages derived from Latin have their own beautiful little quirks. English, unfortunately, is just it's a very buffet style approach to language, which is like, well, I like this word. We're going to take this word. We're going to take these rules.
I don't want to derail too much, but you just made me realize that's a really like English is a hodgepodge
Oh, yeah,
of a bunch of different things, and so is America. and
Yeah.
England.
Yeah, well, and that should be our strength is, all these different influences.
And it makes me wonder how much of it, how language influences your culture.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the only way I can describe the French language is it's very French.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, there are 60,000 vowels. You pronounce 3 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's a beautiful language. Don't let me disparage it with my poor imitation.
If we can shit on English, we can shit on French a little bit.
Yeah. All things being equal, but
Yeah.
as rounding back, education system, I think, is a good indicator of just the machinations of how to keep power out of the hands of the masses. This is like, if we're poorly educated, stupid, we don't know our rights, we don't know the rules, we don't know the avenues available to us to put an end to corruption and all the stuff that are happening that we don't want to happen.
Yeah.
By the powers that be, or the people that have the influence, which right now, it's less and less the government and more corporate interest, which is just as insidious, if not more, because the end game there is squeezing profit out of your very bones. And then they have the politicians in their pockets, so any policy that gets made is being made at the behest of some corporate interest. And that's the real insidious thing, I think, at the moment, even more so than just the world at large, which that everything else going on is kind of par for the course with humanity and um, this stage of civilization in general. Like I said, there's a cyclical nature to this kind of stuff. Um, I hate to keep drawing things back to Rome, but it's a pretty apt comparison as far as like where we're at as a society in America versus where Rome was at when it finally fell apart. And it's, again, the people not having so much of a vested say as the people in charge having, uh, a profitable interest influencing their decisions.
Yeah.
Which is a bummer.
It really looks like the end of the collapse of the civilization.
It does. But the good thing though is, again, with it being cyclical, there empires rise and fall all the time. It's funny to think about how short of a span of the lifespan of the Earth humanity has been a part of it.
Yeah, man, just 5,000 years.
It just no. Earth is only 200 years old. It was started when America first birthed the first bald eagle. No.
And baby Jesus.
Baby, that's right. Jesus with an M16.
100%.
It's
people don't think it'd be like that, but do the research out. It's out there.
That's right, Alice.
If you look in the right places, you'll find it.
Read your sculptures.
I'm sorry, where were we?
It's all right. We're kind of ping-ponging all over the place. But I don't know, man. I don't want to be the doom and gloom guy. It's just hard not to, because
it's a gloomy world, man.
It's a gloomy world. I mean, you make your fun where you can.
So yeah, we have to make the most of it and manifest outwards, because being gloomy about it doesn't help anything. You have to like be brave in the face of that, obviously. But it's good to I think it's good to express those feelings when you're in the comfort of friends, because hearing you say that, like, those are feelings I can relate to.
Right. Yeah.
That makes me feel not so alone about it, because it's like, it can be scary. It can be overwhelming.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
So like maybe Alice feels the same way, and it's
I'm sure she does, but
yeah, yeah. Just be careful around the queen, Alice. Always paint the roses red.
That's right. It may be a daunting thought, like, oh, we might actually be the generation living in the end of an era. Although I do think it's funny that every generation has at some point felt like they were living in the end of days.
Oh, every generation.
Yeah, every generation has their own version of it. So I just wish we could have just stuck to one, because like I'm not sure how old you are exactly.
I'm
Oh,
26.
you're 26. Okay, well you should be old enough then. 9/11 was kind
Yeah,
of like
I remember
the end of
9/11.
it was the end of an era. I
I mean,
remember.
I don't remember much before that, but
Right.
yeah,
Well,
I
yeah,
I know it completely changed the world, the Western world
yeah.
completely.
And just the year before that, we very narrowly avoided another global catastrophe with Y2K, which I know sounds very tinfoil hatty, but if it weren't for all the hard work that computer scientists around the world did to fix that little tallying issue, all kinds of things would have been much worse. There was actually a few things that did happen because some systems weren't updated in time. There was very nearly a nuclear reactor meltdown. I believe that might have been what? I'm not sure where that is. I don't want to speak out of turn because I don't want to attribute it to the wrong place, but maybe Japan, maybe China. I can't remember. But there, because there was a coding issue with one computer that they never got it like updated. Because it's basing its like circulation of the heat water and all that stuff, like for the reactor cooling towers and all that stuff, is runs off the same calendar thing that everything else was, but it was out of sync. But someone caught it in time to keep it from boiling over or whatever. There was
Wow.
some instances of some ladies who, because of an error, a clerical error regarding that same Y2K bug, that changed the dates on a bunch of test results for some genetic screenings for infants, like prenatal screenings for genetic abnormalities. There was actually several babies that were aborted that didn't need to be because the dates were wrong, so the test came back wrong and told several mothers that, hey, your baby is going to be born defective, and that influenced their decision. Um, so there was a lot. I know. Sorry, I'm going to get out of the bad stuff here in a
Wow,
second.
that's
But
no, it's just
like
so
it's funny because
it's
people
wild.
think Y2K, ah, ha, 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 man, we got all excited about
I
that. That
had
was
no
so
idea
crazy.
about this
Yeah,
until I didn't know
yeah.
what Y2K was about.
Oh yeah, yeah. So
I knew
it boils down to when it turns the year 2000, because we were using a two-digit date system for all computer records, it would have reset to 00, and then the computer would have thought it would be 1900. And I know that sounds like such a silly thing to get worried about, but it very nearly like killed the world.
and
If
it
it weren't
caused
for
a lot of
it,
destruction.
it caused some, but not nearly as much as it could have if people
Yeah.
hadn't actually taken the time to fix the issue and make it a four-digit year.
Wow.
I know that sounds silly, but we narrowly avoided that disaster, and then here we are careening headlong into another the next year.
I think every generation has faced um this existential dread. Um
Yes.
Partly great part due to religion, like
Oh
with
yeah.
prophecy. Um but I think there's something particular about our generation because we are at the still the infancy of this technology boom.
Yes.
Like we've only had cars for like 200 years. We've only had internet for how long?
The internet. Now that's
40
something
years?
that's yeah, and really only been like widely publicly available for about 20.
Yeah.
Because and this might be something that you and I can have like a bit of a exchange of thoughts on, because I was kind of that last generation that had kind of split right down the middle, because my formative years, like when you do your
Do you mind
socialization
how
and stuff.
if I ask how old you are?
I'm 35.
Okay.
I was 87.
Mhm.
But so like my formative years were done, in person, like on playgrounds and neighborhood kids and stuff. My neighborhood kids were Mennonites. I grew up in the sticks. All my neighbors were Amish and Mennonite.
Okay.
Horse-drawn buggies were the only people that had electricity. But you know, you do your like early socialization stuff face to face, and then by the time I got to like my senior year of high school and then college was around the time that um, Facebook really became a thing. Not Facebook, sorry, MySpace. And like more and more of my peers had the internet. So that was kind of like the beginnings of like internet culture. So I have a childhood that was separate from the internet, and then like my
Oh, that's an interesting
late
time to
adolescence.
grow up.
Yeah,
Hmm.
but like every generation after us, I feel like more and more so have done that early stage developmental like socialization more and more through an internet,
Hmm.
like whether it's social media or like Zoom calls or
So you grew up with video games, but not the internet.
I was late to video games,
Okay.
but yeah, Ed video games.
Hmm.
I got a got a Nintendo 64 around the time that everyone else was playing like PlayStation and Xbox.
Hmm.
So a little bit behind, but I do find it fascinating. I'm not here to like shit on the younger generations. It's just an interesting thing to observe. And if society doesn't collapse and we persist, it'd be interesting to see the long-term changes that happens to each successive generation as more and more of the formative stuff is happening online.
Yeah.
Again, like that's not disparaging anybody, you know.
Hmm.
I've been accused of that, and fair. But the younger folks, they have both this gift and this curse of like one, all the information in the world is at your fingertips at a young age, but then there's also a whole new world of pitfalls and
Distractions.
distractions.
This is something. So I have a question for you because this is you're leading into something I ask everyone.
Okay.
Or not everyone, but like there are so many tools available. Let's say just put it in the lens of musicians.
All right.
There are so many tools available now to make music that were not available. Let's compare it to the 70s.
Oh yeah.
The loops that the hoops that people would jump through in like the 60s and 70s, like the Beatles or what's his name? He did Bitches Brew. Why is his name
Oh,
slipping
Miles
from me? Miles
Davis,
Davis.
Birth of the Cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Peeing your pants is cool. Call me Miles Davis.
The links those people, those artists would go to record their albums. Like if they had the tools
Oh
available
yeah.
today. But the question I was going to ask you, if you took one of those legends or like Jimmy
Yeah.
and put him today, like they'd be able to do so much more.
Oh, absolutely.
But the question I was going to ask is the catch 22 is growing up. So for example, my mom is an excellent piano player, but she tried to teach me, and I lacked the discipline because I had video games to play. I
Yeah.
had other things to do. I had distractions, and I never formed that discipline. And I make other art, but and you could say that just wasn't for me. But do you have any advice for kids coming up
Mm,
about how to develop a discipline
that's
in this
tough.
tricky landscape?
In this tricky landscape, that is tough because I did have the benefit of being an awkward kid that preferred to spend most of my time alone, laying in the floor drawing
Hmm.
or reading a book. Then or if I am active, I'm out in the woods pretending I've got a sword with a big old stupid stick.
Yeah,
Before that was before video games kind of became a thing.
I
It was
guess.
also because I lived in an environment that allowed me the freedom to go outside and screw around and not worry about all the dangers of the world. Because I lived out in the middle of the woods,
Yeah,
and I think for a lot of kids that's not an accessible thing because outside spaces don't really exist. Um, you'd have to have someone take you to a park or something. They don't really have the benefit of the outside world, so naturally they spend more time inside.
it's
and
like the only
and
option.
yeah, and that's sad, but it's not their fault.
It's not their fault.
It's not fair, but like these damn kids, that's just the world we live in. There's
And on top of
that
that,
many
there's
outside
so
spaces.
like
I didn't really answer your question, but
oh
I'll get
yeah,
to yeah, I'll
before we
get to it.
get yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
but I would say uh, if you do have an interest in something, uh, really just force yourself to carve out time for it. And that's the hard thing because I'm not great at it nowadays either. You know, but like tell yourself I'm going to get home from whatever I have to do out in the world, and I'm going to devote 2 or 3 hours to this thing I want to do. And you're going to suck at it at first. You might suck at it for a while, but as long as you enjoy what you're doing and like put the time in, that, because I draw too. I've seen your art and I love your art.
Thank you.
And I can tell that you put a lot of time into it. And I do the same thing, but like I'm sure people ask you too, like, how'd you get so good at drawings? Because I just sat and did it a bunch. And that's like the dick answer, but it's unfortunately the only real answer is like, I just did it a bunch. I wasn't very good when I started, but I had the passion for it and would just fill all my idle time with doodling in the margins of my homework or whatever. But even that's not so much of a thing nowadays, I guess. Online classes and all that. But I don't know. I say for younger folks, just kind of have to force yourself to like shut out some of the distractions.
Yeah.
And it's hard. That's bad advice because I can't really, say that I'm terribly great at it nowadays either.
There's got to be a way. I'm trying to think about like how I do it. Like, oh, do it when you're like supposed to be doing something else.
Oh yeah,
Practice
absolutely.
guitar when you're supposed to be doing something else.
You bring up a good point because that's the other key ingredient for any creative endeavor is the hard part is not the sitting down and doing it part. It's when it's still up in here in your head, and that's usually when you're best left to neglect doing something else.
Yeah.
Like if you're like, okay, I've got to do this thing, like that makes me want to do something else. So anytime that you've got a project that you have to do, don't do it. Do the thing that you were like putting off art wise instead.
That is excellent advice, and I don't recommend this. This is not good advice, but it's something like in the car, man.
Yes.
Like, what do you fucking do with that? Because you're driving. So it's like I'll like do audio like clips, and it's like or like voice to.
Oh yes, voice to
text. Because yeah, I get a lot of writing done in the car that way.
Yeah, yeah. It's always when you're doing something else that the thing that you've been struggling with, maybe been stuck on, is cooking in the back of your brain.
Yeah. So you heard it here. Play drums while you're driving.
Yeah.
Play guitar. Sorry.
Yeah. No. Absolutely.
Yeah. Do it.
Because like if say there's something that you're really passionate about, but you're stuck on it, like I don't know how to do this next part, or I'm not sure what I should write for the next bit of this story or script or poem. Don't think about it. Do some other crap.
Yeah.
Like blow off your responsibility for a short period of time and screw around doing something else, because the thing that you're really wanting to do is in the back of your head unconsciously sorting itself out. I used to do that trick all the time when I was stuck on a big art project, like when my previous bands I did the album artwork for, and it was this big stupid diorama that I hand drew and then cut everything out, and I got stuck on it for a while. And what I would do when I couldn't like figure out what I need the next element to be, like what I was going to arrange stuff, I fucked off and played Minecraft. And I would mindlessly build. I had in creative mode or whatever, and I would just not set out with any goal. I would just start building random castle ruins, turn my brain off, just build a bunch of crap. The thing I was actually thinking about wanting to work on is back in my head cooking. And after a couple hours of screwing around on Minecraft, it seemed like, oh, kind of piece that together without even really struggling to, turn around and actually go do the art project. So just fuck off. Any opportunity you can get, fuck off and do something else.
If you're performing open heart surgery and you just really want to play Candy Crush on your phone, what's really important to you?
Yeah,
where are your priorities? Stop what you're doing.
Well, yeah, no, actually, I think maybe that's better advice than I thought I was capable of giving, though, because so much of our lives now have been dictated to be the most productive. What are you churning out? What are you cranking out for the man? And that's not what your passion should be for. Instead of trying to meet your quota or doing fucking taxes, doodle, screw around, go for a walk, throw rocks in a pond,
life is
tackle a goose. And while you're doing this screwing around stuff, enjoying your life, you'll find that maybe in the back of your brain, the last little brain cell that actually gives a shit is going like, wait a minute, I figured it out. We gotta go do this thing.
Yeah.
Enjoy your life. I
Yep.
think more than anything, I don't know how you can do this. I'm in awe of you because when I do projects like this album or artwork or whatever, it sits in me and it gestates and it cooks and it cooks and it cooks and it cooks. And then there'll be a flurry of activity and I'll get a chunk of it out and then it has to cook some more and cook some more. But you do this every week.
Oh,
Probably more
you know,
more days a week that you do these podcasts.
I have some stuff to say about that when you're done.
Oh yeah, no, let me hear your thoughts, man.
So yeah, like this to me, and I think it's kind of like what's good about me as a host and what's not good about me as a host is this to me doesn't feel like an art project. I'm just talking to a friend.
Oh, right on, man.
You know what I mean? So it's like it's not difficult because so really I started doing this because this is the kind of conversations I have. Like me and my roommate or like my friends, like we just sit around and talk about stoner shit. Like,
Oh
what's the
yeah,
universe like, and say, well, I mean, if that's what I'm doing, like, why not get more people in on the conversation? And what I found is like, not necessarily all the things we talk about on the show are important, but some of it is, and not, and it's rare. Some of it is stuff that people aren't comfortable talking about usually. And I, speaking personally, like when I digest like someone being vulnerable, that gives me the courage to be vulnerable myself.
yeah, absolutely.
And that's I want to like give that to the world. It's like you can have difficult conversations with with your loved ones or just people that are around you. Sometimes it can be as simple as like call your friends and tell them you love them.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
just if you think about someone, like they pop in your head, call them. Like we're kind of like we were talking about, like when that thought like act on it,
Oh yeah,
you
absolutely.
know, because like life is short, and I didn't mean to take that in a
No,
negative
man.
place, but
No, that's not a negative place, man. It's important. I mean, because
yeah,
again, like it's trying to like reformat what our lives are for, and it's not for producing content for folks. It's finding a passion and doing it for ourselves, and then making time for people we care about. You
yeah,
know, don't have to be a busy bee. Sometimes the most important things you do are the least amount of work because you're just there for someone. Um,
yeah.
you're sitting on a couch having a stupid conversation. Um, Not this conversation. I was actually thinking of hanging out with my best friend Frankie. Hey, bud.
So Frankie,
So, but like some of my fondest memories are sitting on the couch having the most inane conversations possible, and not like deep thoughts like you guys have, but more like
I mean, sometimes stupid
yeah,
conversations are the best kind.
they are, and like some
Yeah,
of my most cherished memories are just sitting on the couch riffing with him about like, what if we did make a Steven Seagal porno, you know,
yeah.
and making scripting out a whole ridiculous thing for
Wait, you have a
uh,
porno idea too?
yeah, so it's like Steven Seagal, kung fu porno. So all the sex acts are actually karate moves.
I have a porno idea too.
All right.
This Alice, I'm sharing this with you. Don't tell anyone. Um, it's called The Second Coming of Christ. Get
Nice.
behind me, Satan.
Oh,
You can put the rest of it
you
together.
nailed it.
Sure did.
Oh man.
Uh, that actually gives me more ideas for the porn.
I mean,
Anyway, you put the
Jesus ain't
pieces together,
Jesus
Alex.
ain't the only one that's gonna be riding some wood. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Don't be cross with me. But I'm
Oh,
pretty
he's
good at
full
this.
of them. He's got them all. So, have you ever seen a UFO?
Um, not actually seen one.
Have you been keeping your eye on the sky?
I do keep my eye on the sky. I mean, my church believes.
I didn't see the script. That's awesome. Nice.
No, I've never had extraterrestrial experience of. I kind of fall in an interesting category, I guess, as far as like the supernatural and supernatural kind of stuff. I kind of ascribe to the idea that we can't sense everything around us. Like our hearing and vision, only narrow chunk of the bandwidth
Very narrow.
that we can actually observe. And even with like the wonders of technology, we only get a little bit more that we can observe, through, like radioscopes and X-ray shit and all that.
And with like advanced mathematics, we can kind of imagine, you could say, or kind of even map out what an extra dimension would be like mathematically,
yeah.
but we can't.
We can't directly sense it.
Yeah.
But I kind of like the idea that shit's around us all the time. And other people might interpret that as ghosts or something like that. I think extra dimensional beings or whatever, things that we can't comprehend under normal circumstances. There's a whole other world kind of overlaid with ours. You can't sense it unless you're in the right frame of mind, or under the influence of something that gives you access to the periphery of your senses that you can catch a glimpse of something. But even then, I don't know if your brain is capable of interpreting things as they are, objective reality, so much as doing what the brain does best, which is gets a piece of information, some data, some sensory information, and it fills in the gaps, because that's what our brains are great at, is pattern recognition. And when it can't find a pattern, it fills in the gaps for it. That's why you see shapes in the clouds or faces and wood grain and whatnot. I think under certain circumstances, right frame of mind or whatever, you catch a glimpse of something that is there all the time, and maybe not even aware of you. Maybe sometimes it is. And your brain can't comprehend what it just caught a glimpse of. So it interprets it a certain way, like as a gray, perhaps.
You sound
or a ghost.
like a man who might have had experiences like that.
Well, so I used to suffer very badly from sleep apnea. I've since gotten a CPAP machine that keeps my brain from getting too oxygen deprived. But if you're familiar with sleep paralysis, and I think it's been pretty well proven that mythology around like succubus and incubus demons and stuff like that sitting on your chest and stuff.
Oh yeah,
can be attributed
famous
to
painting.
Yeah.
You know, the one with the little demon imp sitting on her
I
chest.
think that's Goya, maybe.
I'm not sure.
But
Yeah, sorry.
yeah. No, you're cool. I can't get off an art.
But that's a very famous, or not famous, but common of something weight on your
and I
chest.
think that was one of the ways that ancient peoples, described this phenomenon of like what was happening to them. And I would suffer pretty badly from sleep paralysis and occasionally auditory hallucinations, a voice calling my
during
name.
sleep paralysis.
During sleep paralysis, something calling my name in my own voice. But right before I went and got the sleep study done and got the CPAP machine, I had an experience where I was paralyzed in bed, and a figure, like a shadow cut out of solid night, the shape of a man wearing a baseball cap. Again,
Was the baseball cap also black?
Yeah, it completely like no features at all, like
silhouette of a man with
silhouette,
a baseball
like
cap,
almost like you cut it out of construction
but
paper.
opaque.
Yes, like completely featureless and flat. The darkest black, and it strode up to the foot of my bed, and it touched my foot, and it said in a voice that I can't really describe, "Oh, how it burns them to touch their crooked angels." And felt like I couldn't breathe for a minute or two. The figure dissipated and I could move, and that was pretty fucking freaky. And not long after that, I happened to fall asleep at the wheel on my way to work, and it was like, all right, I'm gonna go.
How old were you when this happened?
was in my mid-20s, I think. But that was an odd experience. And you could just say, well, your brain is misfiring from the sleep apnea and all that stuff. You're not getting enough oxygen or whatever. But usually, how that goes for me, like when like because I've got like an overdeveloped soft palate, is what the source of my sleep apnea. So like that flat lays flat, and then you can't breathe. Your body doesn't get oxygen. Brain panics, dumps a shit ton of adrenaline in your system. You go, and you wake up.
Interesting.
But in those cases, I wasn't getting the adrenaline dump, and I was just laying there not able to breathe and seeing and hearing this shit. And I feel like maybe in that state, maybe the oxygen deprived state or whatever, senses were open just enough to observe shit around me.
You saw beneath the veil.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's kind of a more interesting way to think about it.
If this isn't something you're comfortable talking about, I will cut it out.
No, you're cool, dude.
What's your experience with psychedelics?
Not great. Not great. I don't think I had the right personality for it. I also think maybe I wasn't in the right setting. So my first and really only real experience with psychedelics was several years ago at a summer solstice event, Red Boiling Springs. And a friend of mine invited me. We went camping, and she procured a whole bunch, just a whole spread of, a cornucopia, if you will, of hallucinogens. And instead of being smart and taking one and seeing how that would go, I took what was offered to me, which was mushrooms and acid and MDMA all together.
Nice.
And as the night wore on, and they started a big bonfire and people were playing drums, she, who had also taken the same amount of stuff, she became carefree and was like, oh, I'm going to go say hi to everybody. And she was dancing around and waving to people. And I just got this oppressive hatred that soaked into my soul. I was like, I fucking can't stand around and be around these hippies. And like everything was just twisted and disordered. I went into like Jason Voorhees mode. So I spent the next several hours of that night. Like I tried at first while I was still cognizant of it. I was like, they're just pulsing maggots around me. I'm going to get away from them. Went and stared at the moon for a while. I was like, that's cool. But eventually I had to wander back towards camp. And then when I did, I just found myself stalking campers through the woods, like to their tents, and like, no, you don't need to follow through with this. Yeah. No, I know. That's why I don't do them. But I spent the whole night like stalking campers and going like, yeah, they would be better off if I chopped them into little pieces, but I shouldn't do that.
That's hilarious.
So I ended up leaving in the middle of the night after like I had calmed down a little bit, and like drove to a rest stop and slept in my car to like sleep the rest of it off because I
drove.
Yeah, I was more afraid of hurting somebody than crashing my car.
You know how much you took of each?
Too much. It should never have taken all those together, never, much less the amount.
So when you take MDMA and shrooms, it's called a hippie flip. When you take MDMA and acid, it's called a candy flip.
Okay.
So you did a hippie candy flip.
Oh boy. Well, and that's the thing, like everyone there was real pleasant, nice folks. I mean, terrible, the Grateful Dead cover band, but when all that stuff kind of hit me, everything just turned to like everyone's repulsive, and I would rather see them with their faces ripped off than than talk to anybody. And so like I had enough self-control to like remove myself from the situation.
That's great. That's good. That's a good thing. That
so I don't do case. That. And you might want to cut that if that's too crazy.
No, that's amazing. I'm definitely keeping that in.
Yeah, no, that was my experience. I know everyone else has different experiences, but
so this person that gave this, did they know that you've never done psychedelics before?
Oh yeah.
That wasn't wise.
Yeah.
And that was the one and only time
I didn't really have any interest in revisiting that mindset.
Yeah.
So
yeah, wow.
Because while horror movies are awesome and like my art tends to be kind of on the grotesque side of things, I don't have any interest in carrying any of that out in real life. That's the whole point of art, is it's where I siphon off a lot of my raw emotions into putting the art.
Um, so these things can open up the doors that you're talking about, like the sleep, like the oxygen deprivation,
Right.
um, particularly DMT.
That one is the on the short list of things I would be willing to try under the right circumstances. I think maybe the festival also was like the wrong place for me to try a bunch of stuff. I'm not a big crowd person anyways.
All in all, not a good idea.
And like I said, like nothing against the Grateful Dead, but that cover band was, oh boy.
Oh, I missed that part of the story. It was a Grateful Dead cover band. No wonder you were having an awful time.
Yeah, I'm sure they were all, partaking as well. So, imagine the quality of, the performance there. But, I don't know, maybe that's just not my jam. Maybe if it had been.
Did you go to get drugs?
I think partially that was the plan. Partially
because I was
just
like, why else would you go see a Grateful Dead cover band?
Well, didn't go to see them. It was a I think a summer solstice or equinox.
Oh, I'm sorry, it was a festival.
Yeah, and like it was this really beautiful like self-sustainable commune farm or whatever. Like beautiful place. They farm it themselves. I can relate to that as a farm kid. The creek is full of fossils. It was cool to sit in the creek and just pick up crinoid pieces and stuff. But maybe if it had been like, I don't know, Camel Corpse or something like that blasting, I might not have been in such a bad mood.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great time.
Yeah, everyone's wired a little differently. The la da 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 kind of stuff fills me with rage, and the stuff calms me down.
I saw a quote, and I can't remember who to attribute to, but it was like art comforts the disturbed and disturbs the comfortable.
There you go. I like that. That's a very good quote.
And that's kind of what you said reminded me of that. It's like two people can listen to Cannibal Corpse and have completely different takes on it.
Oh yeah.
Like those people that thought you were a terrorist.
Yeah. That's still funny. At the time I was shaking, because I at that point I never had a gun pulled on me. So I called my boss for that trapping program and told him what happened, and he just laughed. He thought it was hilarious, and I think it's hilarious now.
But not at the time.
Not at the time. It was like I was scared. Like, I think I almost got shot by a bunch of cops.
Yeah, you might have. You very easily might have. So yeah, no, like I'm with you on the we see a very small amount of what happens. And there's ways people can interact with those things, I'm quite certain. So if I know that, the government knows that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they know way more about it. So they're doing there's a guy named Rick Strausman who's doing he's actually, I think he has like a grant to do all this. It's like all legal, but he's doing research on DMT where he's giving people intermuscular injections.
Okay.
And they're going in for hours at a time. And what they're figuring out is that they're having they're having the same experience.
That was the thing that I found fascinating about people I've known that's talked about it or have done it, is like the commonality, the thread that kind of ties all those experiences together. I think that's very interesting. I've never heard of you said intramuscular injection.
Is it there's intravenous and then there's it's intermuscular.
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't.
That's right.
I guess I always thought people just like smoked it or drink it as a tea.
Oh, this is some crazy experimental shit. People do not like that's not a thing people do.
Because I was gonna say you said hours and I was like, oh no, I don't want to do that.
Oh no, this is super fringe, like fringe science.
Because like the one thing that did appeal to me about the DMT thing, aside from like hearing the machine language of the universe and the people call them elves or gods or whatever like that. That's fascinating, but was like, I like the part where it said it's usually about a 20-minute trip and you're back to
Yeah.
yourself. It's like, okay, I'm fine with that
That is the
because
case.
I don't want to
So
wander around for 8 hours,
yeah.
in a Jason Voorhees mood.
So you're gonna have about 20 minutes of absolutely mind-boggling experience that may feel longer than that, maybe, and then you're gonna feel weird for about another 20-30 minutes.
Okay.
And there's really, I've done DMT maybe like a dozen times, and I'm at the same level of preparedness to do it that you are.
Right.
There is no part of the experience is having the rug ripped out from under you. There's no way to prepare for that. The only thing I like to recommend is breathing.
Okay.
I found that really great. Just like just get really relaxed and comfortable, because what I'm convinced happens is it's not hallucinations. What happens is you're ripped out, and there's an infinite amount of experiences you could go to. I've never had the same experience twice or gone to the same thing at all. Um, but I think your state of mind has an impact on where you go.
I
So I
gotcha.
think basically you can think of your consciousness um like a radio transmitter, and it's tuned into different, so like uh and you're kind of, I feel like your spirit kind of dictates where that's going to go.
I gotcha.
So it's not like you're not, it doesn't work in the way that you can like go where you want to, but you're going to get the energy you're projecting
I gotcha.
in a way that is not what you anticipate, almost without a doubt.
Right, right. Yeah. Subconscious takes you where it wants to go.
Yeah, that's also, I've also had experiences. Let me back up. Were you raised religiously?
Um, for a short period of time, I went to Catholic school,
Okay.
and then I realized that was bullshit. So
Yeah. So that wasn't like big in your household growing up?
not really. My parents were. I was fortunate to have parents that were open enough to let us kind of choose our own paths. Like I did go to Catholic school, and then once that experiment kind of failed, um, we were kind of all free to pursue our own sort of like
Yeah.
spiritual paths. My sister is still a very Christian person, but she's wonderful about it. She's it's a very personal thing for her, not a like
Oh, that sounds like a
so
real
but
Christian.
yeah, she
Yeah.
doesn't scream at you about stuff. And then my brother, I'm not sure where he falls actually, but we were all kind of free to pursue our own
Yeah.
things.
How many of you are
Three.
there? Three. Okay. Um, what kind of music did your parents listen to growing up?
Pretty eclectic little stuff. My mom was very much into like John Prine and James Taylor, Jackson Brown, the Commodores.
Okay, cool.
My dad was very much a Southern rock kind of guy, so a big um, oh Lord, Marshall Tucker Band fellow. It was cool. I mean, we had kind of like the free range of everything. When I started getting into heavy music, they were very supportive. Let us make
Nice.
awful noise in the basement.
That's awesome.
So that pretty cool. I think my upbringing is atypical because, well, most of my peers were coming up in town or more insular communities. Like I said before, my neighbors were all Mennonites and Amish,
Hmm.
so like very different world.
Yeah.
Horse-drawn buggies and
Yeah, I've interacted with some Amish people.
yeah,
They're
folks.
every time I've met them, they've been really cool.
Yeah, they're nice folks. But I think having that experience in my formative years, growing up in the midst of a culture that wasn't necessarily my own, but seeing the commonalities, because like as soon as I was big enough to work on the farm, I worked on the farm. Same with their kids. So like we built this common bond. Like we're both hardworking
Yeah.
youngsters, uh, but the completely different like moral and religious ethical backgrounds and stuff like that. So I think that prepared me to not be a bigoted asshole when I got into the world at large, whereas a lot of my peers not so much. Um, a sad little detour. Where I grew up was about about a 20-minute drive to Pulaski, Tennessee.
Mhm.
If you're familiar with that, that was where.
Yeah, I think I
unfortunately,
know there's a group of Amish like in Lawrenceburg.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, Pulaski, like
yeah.
20 minutes away.
But Pulaski is the birthplace of the KKK,
Mhm.
and it's still a thing down there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, unfortunately, they would do their marches and stuff. So like, it's
Oh,
not.
like still?
I don't know about more recent years, but I remember when I was in high school, they would do them, and some of us would go down there, and the parade route passed under a unused train trestle and would huck rocks at them. But
Nice.
but
America.
yeah, but like, so it's one of those places. So there's a lot of bigotry just sort of like baked into the area. And I think I got fortunate that, like, growing up around a culture different from my own, I learned to accept people as, as I see the commonalities
Mm.
and not the differences. So when I
Yeah.
got into the world at large, I wasn't plagued by a lot of the same um, small town narrow mindedness that a lot of people I grew up around did.
I can definitely relate to that. The reason I was asking you like questions about your upbringing is um I was homeschooled and I was also raised as a Jehovah's Witness.
Oh boy, that had been an interesting experience.
Yeah, so I was extremely sheltered until the point that I would like all my peers were in my church and my neighbors. Um, and um, I was really sheltered and I moved out at 18 and immediately started going to like East Room
Oh, right on.
and the Cobra and like immediately. I had a couple of friends that knew about cool bands,
Oh yeah,
and I can say without a doubt that live music saved my life. So
absolutely. I would give
I
you a
I
fist
say all that
bump
to
on
I
that one.
appreciate you. I
Yeah,
appreciate what you do, what you guys do.
yeah, I appreciate what you
It
do too,
saves
man.
lives.
You couldn't be more true in that statement, though, because yeah, heavy music saved my soul. Time when you're lost and you don't know much about yourself. Um, Growing up, knowing you're different than everybody else. For the longest time, I harbored the secret that I was bisexual. Because you grow up in a town that's very narrow-minded,
Hmm.
and this is also your formative years of pre-internet, so you don't have those resources. You don't even know that there's a name for the thing that you are,
Yeah,
and you keep that shit to yourself. That's definitely one of the benefits of the younger folks, I think, is having a community that accessible to them, like able to uh, navigate the waters and not be alone.
yep.
But while I was struggling with my self identity and like lashing out as hyper masculine shit to like compensate for, like, I think boys are cute too. Uh, I got into heavy metal and uh, it was Opeth's Ghost Reveries.
Mhm.
The Grand Conjuration came on. Um, uh, a thing that doesn't exist anymore, children, is there used to be a channel that had music videos on it. And on Saturdays, they would play the metal.
Nice.
And hearing fucking Michael Ackerfeld's like earth-shattering low rumble growls, like, holy shit, there's a music that actually speaks to me. Because at that point, I'd like listen to like Creedence Clearwater Revival and
Oh yeah.
the Rolling Stones, did typical stuff. I'm like, this is cool, I like it. But that was the first time music really spoke to me, was like
Yeah.
hearing
Fucking love
something.
Opeth.
Yeah, yeah, oh, god damn, dude.
Yeah.
It is, it's like that sounds as ugly as the inside of my head feels. And it was a cathartic experience. And
Yeah.
that's kind of the way that I've always approached art and just anything creative, is really um, as a way of siphoning off negativity and making it be productive and useful. Is, like, all this stuff built up inside you, hate or rage or whatever, nebulous black boiling goo in your heart. And if you can slap it on a page or like put it in a microphone, it becomes a quantified number. It becomes knowable and containable, and it's outside of yourself now.
Yeah.
and it can lift other people up.
Yep.
Like hearing, that song for the first time, like shook me to my core. I was like, holy crap,
So
that resonates with me.
so I'm gonna get really tinfoil hat.
All right, all right, all right.
It's Golem magic. It goes back to that's what the ancient Israelites would call Golem magic.
Oh yeah.
It's funny. I was having a conversation with David Estes, producer of King Lazy Eyes upcoming album.
Oh sweet.
But he was that episode will be up soon if it's not already up. But we were talking about how if I was like, Joe, I'm an oromancer. I can tell things about people
Ooh.
before I get to know them. I can divine things about them. Be like, okay, well that's ooh, yeah.
Some people got the touch.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm a yeah. Well, what I was gonna say, but not just you. What I meant is like people will have a reaction to that. That is, it's kind of a stern statement to say.
Yeah.
But if I were like, I sometimes just get this vibe from people, and I don't like, or I can like sometimes I just get a vibe, and I don't really know what it is. I just don't like. I'm not. There's something off about that person. Everyone goes, oh yeah, I feel that sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's like, so it's really just the way we talk about things is different. People look around for magic, like magic is flying in the air, it's shooting fire out of your hands. But that's only in the realm of fantasy.
Right.
Like magic is what we're doing right now.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We're spell casting. Magic is what you do, and Eye on the Sky.
Oh, thanks, man.
Moon War 2020. Yeah, that's a very powerful incantation.
Thank you. I feel like it was cathartic for us to create it, and hopefully it's cathartic for other people to absorb it. 2020 was such a fucking awful year for everyone. I feel like, even though it's also an apocalyptic album, I feel like it's appropriate and sort of a reclamation of the year. Kind of a way, kind of a weird way to put it, but I don't know how else to say it.
What do you think is like humanity's greatest threat right now?
Ourselves.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the boilerplate answer, I guess. But
I don't think that's a bad answer. But
I guess I could get more.
Can we narrow it down?
Yeah, I can get more specific because I think about this constantly. It ties into the thing you were talking about a minute ago with the sort of practical everyday magic. The thing that is the greatest existential threat to mankind is thinking that we are separate from the rest of the universe, that we somehow are a special class, that we are not behooven to the same rules and laws that the whole rest of the universe operates under. Because I feel like if you can go as small as we currently know how to get small subatomic particles, the way that they shape and form themselves and function with each other, if you scale all the way back up to the macro, it's the same shapes and movements you see in galaxy clusters and clusters of galaxies. So everything follows the same mechanical pathway, and human interaction and emotion and the transference of emotions and thoughts are functionally the same as the way that electrons jump, levels and around a nucleus, create different atoms or bonds. I think we are functionally the same.
Yeah.
Despite our seemingly more complex nature, you boil us down, we're still the same function as a fucking molecule form or something like that. Especially when we are having conversations and there's an exchange of thought and emotion. And we can even do that kind of remotely now with art. Someone around the world can read the thing that you write or watch the thing that you made or hear the thing that you made, and you're communicating with them. Very much like the idea of quantum entanglement. Two atoms split from each other, but are still in the same frequency. An invisible thread connecting them.
Wild stuff.
Yeah, invisible thread connects us all. We're all the same organism.
Yeah.
You know, our function seems to be a sensory organ for the collective, like entity that is the totality of existence to look at itself.
That is 100% the case, and I'm a wholehearted believer in that. I had a DMT trip one time. Alice is probably tired of hearing this particular. I should talk about different ones sometime because I've had a few, but this one, I guess, is the most. It's the one that comes up in conversation the most because it's changed how I look at the world. Not that the others haven't, but like I was, and this is a drug trip, so I'm not,
Right.
I'm completely invested. Yeah, you got a vasectomy.
I did. Well,
very recently.
I got tired of the reptilians stealing my sperm, so
Yeah.
I just figured, told the doctor, cut it out. But yes, I am still very tender.
Oh shit.
I was sitting on that one for a minute.
Cut it out.
Cut it out. Yes.
Was that a Full House?
It was. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
Uncle Joey.
Yeah.
There.
And then he got the baby doing it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
How rude. How rude.
God damn.
What the fuck are we talking about?
I'm glad I'm not the only one who remembers that stupid show.
Yeah, it was bad.
It was bad, but goddamn, I watched the show as a kid.
Me too.
I
think there were reruns for me, I guess. Yeah. That I watched a lot. That and like Fresh Prince.
Oh yeah.
I've seen all of Fresh Prince. Like, man, I watched a lot of TV.
Man, gather around, children. I'll tell you a tale of how growing up in the before 4 times, when we only had 4 TV channels, had PBS, ABC, NBC, and Fox 17.
That sounds awful.
I watched a shit ton of Mr. Rogers, so I don't think it's that awful.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
PBS was definitely a lifeboat in a way, because watching reruns of Nova definitely sparked a big love of science and stuff that seems woo-woo to the commoner, but to the learned man is science.
Oh, to the initiated.
Yes. Sciences.
Or I was shown, and it wasn't really a conversation. I was just shown that the universe woke up. Consciousness arose out of nothing.
Yeah.
Or out of the universe, I guess. And it was like profoundly alone. It was like, I'm all there is. And so it made life so it could go down and pretend that it was those things.
I like that idea. Kind of get lost in its own creation there for a minute.
Yeah. And so I think you and I are, in everything, trees are all the same soul.
Yeah.
The thing that drives you is identical. I'm a big determinist. I think the things that make you and I different are our biology and our environment, things we've been through.
Oh yeah. You're talking that intersection between nature and nurture that people always seem to think is an either or.
It's not either or. It's both. Obviously,
exactly.
It's both.
Yeah, it's those.
Yeah,
it's those points of intersection that define an individual's consciousness.
So
but
you were
the
talking.
Baseline is still, you want to call it the oversoul or the great consciousness.
Brahma.
God. Every culture that has arrived at that point has a different name for it.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was going to get to. Is I think every major religion in the world is saying what I'm saying also.
Oh yeah.
When Jesus says he's the Son of God, he's not the Son of God.
Right.
He just realized, oh, I'm God made flesh, and so are you.
Yeah, exactly.
So do what I'm doing, because we're all God. We should treat each other decently, because we're all the same fucking person.
Right.
And treat other people as you would like to be treated, because that's you, and you're going through that.
Yeah, I mean, we're just neurons firing in the great brain that is the expanding and slowly dying universe. So
yep.
And I say dying, but that's only because as far as we know, there's a definite end. But you want to get in parallel universes or multiverses, or what I kind of think is just the oscillation between existence and non-existence. So Big Bang to everything flying apart. Eventually, there's only one other direction for shit to go. It's collide back together enough
Yeah.
to form enough of a mass to trigger another Big Bang.
Unless everything's in, unless there's an infinite amount of space for space to travel
Right.
into.
I don't know. I mean, I guess the big question. What's beyond the veil of
So from what we observe, and it could possibly be that there are boundaries and nothing has reached them,
right?
but from what we observe, it appears infinite. And on, I would say on both scales, because you
Yeah.
pointed out you can go in
Yeah.
infinitely.
Yeah.
Like actually, like I'm not a huge like MCU fan, like they're fine, but Ant-Man, there's a scene where he goes like super
Yeah.
like macro small, like nano small, and he's like seeing protons flying around.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a point of perspective on both ends of the scale that are functionally the same.
Yeah.
And what does that do? Oh no, everything's a flat circle. You draw a line between it's. I feel like again, like that intersection, nature and nurture, can be applied to the universe at large, and the visible universe, the known universe, functionally to totality of creation is just that intersection of we're seeing a cross section of a sphere passing a plane. Big Bang is one point passing the plane. Expansion, smaller. Expansion, smaller. Whatever. I feel like even if space is infinite, everything
still comes back in.
Yeah, everything is.
It's like a breath in and breath
Exactly.
out.
It's a light switch.
That makes sense.
And you want to get all spooky booky with it. What else is a binary on off? Machine language. It's 100011101001. Everything is just
Bars, dude.
Yeah. Oh no, that's Clutch. I was ripping off Clutch. That's a Clutch song.
I love Clutch. I was just joking about the 01001. That's
yeah.
Man.
But yeah, but I mean, no, man. But I mean, like that's if you want to say everything's a simulation, fine. But is it a computer, or is it is the totality of everything functionally a computer anyways?
Yeah, a
because,
simulation or something.
If you had a calculator powerful enough that could track the trajectories of every single particle at the point of the Big Bang, where everything is going to go onward, 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 then yeah, I think you could calculate where things are going to coalesce back again. Anyways, it's just math. Existence is math, and I am shitty at algebra.
That's it's like here to kick ass, chew bubblegum, bubblegum.
Oh man, so okay, so not to just keep going like, hey, we've got an album coming out.
Hey, they have an album.
We have an album coming out. But that definitely was one of many pop culture influences on sort of the structure of the narrative.
Oh yeah,
was They Live, and I do believe there's some little Easter eggs, little references sprinkled in the lyrics, to They Live and some other like sci-fi properties that I like to hide little nuggets like that.
It's so much fun. Like it's like fun music, and like you guys are having fun with it clearly, and like the whole vibe is just fun.
Yeah, man. I the music itself is burly and raw and aggressive, but always wanted to kind of have a little levity to it. We are telling an inherently silly story.
Yeah.
But we want to tell it in a way that is like you'll just go, God damn, I wish that was a movie.
And it has like real life parallels and implications.
Yes.
It's like the first joke that came to mind was, man, wouldn't that be better?
Yeah.
And it's like that's probably what a lot of people like. Oh yeah, it's Moon War 2020. Wouldn't that been better, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's like
I mean, like, wouldn't it have been better if like the threat to civilization was like easily point outable, like clearly, like,
that would be
look, you
great.
can see they're lizard people.
Reptiles. Yeah.
Instead, like, we're stuck with this awful nebulous, like, a lot of just unfortunately stupid people get swept up in a lot of like really dumb rhetoric, and now they're doing awful things in the name of something stupid.
It's
And it's hard to, like, yes, they're dumb and they shouldn't have done that, and a lot of good people are hurt, and democracy itself is kind of standing on a wobbly leg. But it's hard to be angry because a lot of these folks, as misguided as they are, think that they're coming from the perspective of like righteousness.
true
Uh,
evil is real, but it's very rare. Most people are misguided, thinking they're doing the
yeah,
right thing.
people, they thought they were doing the right thing when they stormed the Capitol or whatever. They were wrong, and they were doing it for a stupid reason. At least in the album, we've got people storming the Capitol to depose an authoritarian space lizard, and not like uphold an authoritarian, like
Space lizard.
Cheeto. But yeah, it's Space Cheeto.
Space Cheeto.
Yeah. But
I
I feel like that's the escapist aspect of what we wrote, is like, okay, the enemy, if you want to have an enemy, is clearly defined as something literally other than self. And wouldn't it be nice if our problems could be so easily identified and dealt with, and not just this nebulous, like, man, you're my uncle. Why are you spouting off this shit? It's much more insidious and harder to combat when like the destructive rhetoric is coming from inside the house.
yeah,
Um,
for sure.
it's not as fun or glamorous as being able to rip the like human suit off of a lizard man and be like, behold, I knew that wasn't really Steve.
Yep.
It's
It's
murky.
because the threat humanity faces, um, besides lizard
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
obviously,
Yeah, of course, lizard people.
obviously,
That's why you gotta get yourselves
Yeah.
one of these, baby.
but it's us.
Yeah.
You gotta look in the mirror, and that's not. It's not only them. Like it's you. You're gonna
Yeah.
fuck yourself up
Exactly.
a lot.
And that stems from that, tying it all back together, full circle, baby. To the fact that we separate ourselves and on multiple levels from the rest of the world. We think of ourselves as inherently different. The rules that nature follows don't apply to us, uh, and that carries in everything we do as a civilization. Uh, I mean, if we realize that we're beholden to the same thing that the rest of the world is, we might stop to consider maybe not destroying the fucking planet we live on. But that's not in my moneyed interest. That's not in my corporate paymaster's interest to stop polluting or damaging shit.
We're the monster.
Yeah, exactly. We think we'll be fine. Who cares about the earth? Fuck the oceans. Dolphins can suck it.
We're monsters.
Yeah, exactly. But like, if we pause to consider, now we're part of this too. Our fate is tied to this. Like, Frodo's fate is tied to the fucking One Ring. And if we don't chuck the damn thing, we're going to be lost to it. But that's the mindset that we can't separate. I think.
I like that analogy.
Yeah, possibly we've grown too fast as a civilization. We still hold on to this sort of tribalist belief that we are different and there must be an other, and therefore, because they are different, they must be the enemy, and let's not work together. Technology is at the point where we could do something positive and beautiful and fix a lot of the things that we've done or like that are occurring naturally as well.
Unfortunately, I have no faith in democracy anymore.
Oh no,
I don't. Our democracy is a lie.
You see, you said you're 26.
Mm-hmm.
I would argue you probably haven't really lived in a democracy at all.
At all, ever?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no, fuck no, definitely, 100% no. Like since Kennedy, at least.
Yeah, at least.
And there's only There's only one way that changes is people have to be accountable for their actions.
Yeah, people have to be accountable for their actions, and the inevitability of nothing lasts forever.
And
All empires fall.
I think even if they have good intentions, like I think when you get into a position of real power, whether you are altruistic or not, you're debriefed. What's his name? Bill Hicks had a joke about this. Like they bring you to a room and they show you all the shit, and then they show you what happens to the guy who snitched about it
right.
and his family.
Yeah.
And I think that's a reality we live in.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I also think that our most public servants uh, tend to be selected not so much for uh, their usefulness as opposed to their powers of distraction.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people find themselves in positions of power that are completely unqualified for it, purely
All of them.
because they are a train wreck, and that all the attention is going to that as opposed to where the real power lies and where the real handshake deals are being made. Again, I've alluded to it before, but our previous president, an awful person for sure, but I don't think he was quite the ringleader of anything. But dude is a fucking mess and a very loud mess, and that was where all of our attention was focused on, as opposed to well, who's telling him what to do.
It's the same distractions we see now too.
Oh,
It's like
absolutely. Yeah, it's no different. It's just a change.
it's sleepy, he's falling, and it's like, but what's he doing?
Exactly. He's not in charge of shit. Neither was the last guy. Neither was the last guy. Neither was the last guy.
I don't care if Bill Clinton got his dick sucked. What's he doing?
Yeah.
What is that distracting you from?
Exactly. And that I've felt that way ever since I read Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, because there's a part later in the book where they do go to meet the person behind the throne, so to speak. Because one of the main characters is the president of the galaxy or whatever, and he was picked not because he's good at anything, but because he's an obnoxious asshole. And what does he do on his inauguration day? He steals like the most amazing spacecraft known to exist, and goes on like a tear across the universe or whatever.
Oh, I remember this now.
Zaphod Beetlebrocks.
Yeah, that guy.
He steals
they parody that guy in Futurama too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But like, so he was picked president just because he was a fucking like loud, attention-seeking, train wreck. And that was, everyone's focused, like all the galactic news, everybody's paying attention to what is the president fucking doing? Holy shit, he just stole a spaceship. He just crashed on a planet that people thought didn't exist, blah, blah, blah. Later in the book, you go to meet the person that really runs the universe. And it's a dude that doesn't know he runs the universe. It's just some dude living in a shack. And people in suits come and tell him, like, sign these. And he goes, well, I guess so, right? So who really is in charge of anything? I don't think it's the figurehead so much as, the figurehead is there to hold your attention.
The answer is the queen doesn't do anything. She sits there. The ants do everything.
That's true. The queen and her stupid little like pastel suits. What is she hiding?
Mm-hmm. If all the cards would just be like, hey, I don't want to off with their heads. Why don't we off with your head?
Ah, yes.
Maybe things would just be a lot better.
Yeah.
And on that note, I have one more question for you.
Right, let's hear it, bud.
What do you think happens after we die?
Ooh.
If after the Mad Queen lobs my head off for all this blasphemy I'm speaking?
Well, I suppose for a moment you might travel with your head through the air, attempt to blink, maybe blow a raspberry at the queen, and then I suppose the collected energy that formed your conscious self would sublimate back into the totality of everything, and you would get pooped back out somewhere else as a different thing. I kind of feel like there's a conservation of energy and whatnot. It's a finite amount of thinky personhood. I think it just gets squirted out somewhere else as a different thinky being.
Oh, okay. So like reincarnation?
Sort of, yeah. I don't know. I haven't really thought about that part too much.
Yeah.
I just, like we're each just a node
That's the
in
beautiful thing
in the
about
big thing. So,
that's the beautiful thing about the question is no one has any idea.
oh yeah,
Even though I've had experiences that I know are drug trips, but people 1,000 years ago would think is a prophecy,
oh
is a prophetic
absolutely, man.
vision,
Yeah,
and then they'd write a book about it.
yeah. Nostradamus.
Yeah. But um, that's still I don't know. I have no idea what's going on. That might give me insight,
Yeah.
or it might not.
It might not. I mean, who's to say? I've talked all this big game about like the binary on-off nature of existence, and who's to say I'm completely wrong and that black holes are just big old cosmic prolapses and they're just pooping us out into the next thing. Everything's just getting sucked out of that. And
Oh, there's another universe, and then they just spill into each other.
yeah, there's just a whole bunch of cosmic prolapses pooping on each other.
Oh, it's a fucking
Yeah,
dude.
it's
That's
big old
actually
poop
fucking
party.
brilliant. It's like what are you, a toroidal?
Yeah,
Huh.
pooping back and forth forever. Existence.
And on that note, Joe, thank you so much
Hey,
for being
thanks
here.
for having me, man.
Alice,
Oh,
check
stuff
out.
these kids do in the streets.
I don't know any gang signs.
Walmart.
Alice, check out Eye on the Sky. Check out Moon War 2020. You're in for a treat.
Thanks, Alice.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.